Let's talk about statements, negations, and quantified statements. These are all part of something called logic. And logic is all about taking ideas that we could describe in the English language and converting them eventually into some sort of math. Something that I can get rid of all the fluff and be reduced down to just the actual facts of the situation. So this section is all about logic. That's what we're trying to do. And in the first section, we're just talking about some basic ideas. So first of all, I have a statement. It's a sentence, so it has to be a sentence in English. And the sentence has to be either true or false, but it does not get to be both at the same time. So I'm going to give some examples of that in a second. In this section, I'm also going to talk about negation. It basically means to make negative. The negation of a true statement makes it a false statement. The negation of a false statement makes it true. It switches around like that. And then we're going to talk about quantified statements. Quantifiers in English are words like all, some, no, none. These tell me I'm not just talking about the teachers at Victoria College. I'm talking about no teachers at Victoria College, or all the teachers at Victoria College, some of the teachers at Victoria College. These are what quantified statements are. It has to be a statement, but it has to have one of these all, some, no, none type things going on with it as well. All right, so first of all, let's talk about some statements. And let me get us up to a decent size for seeing what's going on here. There we go. Let's talk about some statements that we might have. Well, for statements, what do they have to be? They have to be sentences, and they have to be things that can be either true or false. It is raining today. This is a sentence. It is a statement. It's very much a statement, and you can go outside and look and decide whether it's true or false. You don't need to know. It might be true some days and false some other days. That's fine. It just can't be both. If it rains in a day, then I say it's raining today. And I don't get to mince around with that. It's not a true or false statement. You don't need to know whether the statement is true or false. You just have to be able to look at it and decide it might be. It has to be one or the other. Another statement. The sky is green. This one is almost always false. This is usually false. But that's okay. You can determine that it's almost always false, I think. The sky is very rarely green. But it's still a statement. This can be true or false. Some things that are not statements. Not everything is a statement. So commands are not statements. Read your textbook. You may or may not read your textbook, but my sentence, read your textbook, is not able to be evaluated directly as true or false because that is a command. It's not something that's deciding whether things are true or false. It is simply a command. On the other hand, the phrase commands are not statements, this is a statement. It's a sentence. It's got a noun and a verb and everything, and it can be a true or false statement. This one happens to be, this is always true. Just to be kind of cute. How are you? This is called a question. Question is not a statement. Some other things that are also not statements, but might look like statements, are some things that are a little more dicey. You have to be a little more discerning in the logic. So let's take this one. I am the worst math teacher at VC. On the surface, this looks like something that you could evaluate to be true or false. You probably have an opinion at this point in the course already. Certainly by the time finals come along, you're going to have definite opinions about how much I suck. However, you can't actually evaluate this because we have one of these things that's a slightly unfortunate word here. I've got the word worst, and the word worst is not very specific. What do I mean by worst? Do I mean that I'm boring? Maybe my lectures suck. What if I'm boring, but what if every other math teacher at VC, and this is not true, but I'm saying what if I am boring, but I'm the only one who who actually knows any math. If I'm the only one who knows any math, then I'm the only one who can actually teach you some skills that you can use, even if I am boring and sound like one of those electronic reading machines. On the other hand, what if I'm fascinating? I'm the most interesting person alive, like that guy on the Dos Equis commercial, but I know no math. Then I'm kind of not the worst teacher, maybe, but it's all very vague and very strange. What if I fail students who don't show skill knowledge on tests? Well, students who pass my tests probably like that because I've made them part of the elite, the ones who did pass things. But to somebody who does fail a test, and fails the class, maybe they don't like me all that much. So this idea of worst is very vague. So at the end of the day, I'm the worst math teacher at VC is not very good. It's not a statement because it doesn't have to be true or false. And in particular, depending on your definition of worst, it might be a true statement and a false statement at the same time. Something like it's raining today, we don't have arguments about what the word raining means. So that's enough for statements. Here's some things I can do with it. Let's talk about some negations. All right, so to talk about negations, the negation of the statement, it is raining today, it is not raining today. That emphasis on not's been added by me. You don't have to go all capitals, but that's what's going on there. It's not raining today. The sky is not green. Commands are statements. Notice the initial sentence was commands are not statements. So commands are not statements becomes commands are statements. These are all negations of those previous statements that I've given us. So that's how you create negations. So in logic, we try to make each statement have a letter so that we can boil away the fluff is basically what we're trying to do, get down to the main part. So we usually use the letters P and Q. Those are the two letters that we often use for statements if we just have a couple of them in play. So usually what you do is you take a statement and you replace it with P or Q. So I could have the statement P, and here's how I would do this. I would give P a definition. So I'd do P and I'd put a colon after it and I'd say, it is raining today. So now I don't have to type it is raining today anymore. I can just say the statement P. I've come up with a name for it. And if I want to talk about the sentence, it is not raining today, I want to talk about the negation, well, I talk about it like this, the negation of P. If you hit Shift and on the top left of your keyboard, there's a little tilde signal. It's on top of the ñ if you speak Spanish, or any of the Portuguese too, I think. But this little twiddle statement there means not P. And so this would be the sentence. Since I've already defined P to be it is raining today, not P is it is not raining today. If I define Q to be the statement monkeys like, let me say Q is going to be the statements monkeys do not like cabbage. Then the statement not Q is going to be monkeys do not like cabbage, which means monkeys do like cabbage. Just because I negate something doesn't mean that I force it to always be true or always be false. It just means I'm flipping that sentence around and making it something else. So now let's talk about the last section of this thing, quantified statements. For quantified statements, we're putting those quantifier words in front of them. So remember our quantifier words, all, some, and no or none. So all professors at Victoria College have a master's degree. Here's my statement. This is either true or false. If I try to negate this statement, again, let's give this statement a name. Maybe I'll call this one R. I'm giving it a letter name. If I try to find you the statement not R, this one's not going to be no professors at VC have a master's degree. Instead, I have to be a little more careful. So on page 107 in your book, they've got a table of some ways of expressing things that are quantified statements or not. And they also have on page 108 a series of negations. So the negation for all professors at VC have a master's degree is that some professors at VC have a master's degree. The way you can think about this is, remember, if you take a statement that's true and negate it, the negation has to be false. So if I look at professors at Victoria College, not all of them have a master's degree, because some of them went and got their PhD right away and never got the master's, and then some of them are allowed to just have a bachelor's degree depending on what area they're in. So this means this statement here on an absolute level, all professors at VC have a master's degree, is false. That means my negation of this statement has to be true. If I were to negate this statement by coming up with some bogus sort of thing that no professors at VC have a master's degree, well, that's a problem because this is also false. I'm one of them. I'm a professor at VC and I have a master's degree. Since the original statement R ended up being false, and since this effort to try to create a negation saying that no professors at VC have a master's degree is also false, that makes this not a negation by our logic. Feel free to pause and rewind that argument. I did go through it a couple times till you're convinced of the truth of it and can follow all the steps. That's a little bit deep there, I know, but it's good. This is some good logic statements. Then the other thing that I want to talk about is that I could say something like, some professors at VC have a master's degree. What if this was my original statement? Well, this is true. To come up with the negation of this, I have to cook up something that we happen to know is false. I need a false sentence. I need a false statement. So the way I would do that, to make sure, because if I say some professors at VC have a master's degree and start out there, if everyone at VC has a master's degree, that statement is true. Some do. That some happens to be all. So my negation can't be all professors have a master's degree. Instead, if I want to make the statement after I know that some professors do have a master's degree, if I want to get the negation, to make this negation up, I'd have to say no professors at VC have a master's degree. We know this to be false. So you want to be super cautious when you're talking about your letters and how these work. And in negating quantified statements, it's a little more dicey because you've got some of these strange sort of things going on there. And so again, like I said, on page 108, there's some good tables, tables 3.2 and 3.3, that help a lot with that. And that concludes my intro to statements, negation, and quantified statements.